and also then the most important part, answering all the questions you might have on our subject for today. So as you see that this workshop is specifically designed in conjunction with the QCTO and Agbiz with the help and the assistance of Agbiz Grain, who were all partners in the registration of this qualification. We are very proud that this qualification, occupational qualification, has been registered and that we can start training our prospective learners on this qualification. It's been a long time in the making, and I have been involved in the process from almost the start. So representing Agbiz today is Mr. Koos Mahlangu. Unfortunately, the other role players are involved in other workshops that they also have to be involved in, but we are very thankful that Koos is here. And then, as you can see, the most important role player today is the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. And we have various role players here that will give us very important information that we need in order to successfully implement this qualification. It's a whole new way of thinking about training and development in our country. And we are very excited to start implementing this qualification with the skills development providers as well as industry as they are represented here today. So I would like to start off the program by just welcoming Mr. Wessel Lemmer, who's the General Manager of Agbiz Grain. And I'm just going to invite him to welcome each and every one of you. Wessel, if you can maybe just put on your camera so people can see you. Maybe just a couple of logistical arrangements while Wessel is coming online is to make sure that you are muted today. At the end of each one of the presentations, we will be having a question and answer session on that specific presentation so that we don't lose continuity. You will see that we start with certification, which seems the wrong way around, but unfortunately, Anne-Marie has to be in another workshop as well later today, so we have just bumped her up to the first spot so that she can attend her other meetings as well. So if you have a question with regards to certification, you can either at the end of the presentation raise your hand and we will acknowledge you, or you're also welcome to type your question in the meeting chat and I will then direct it to Anne-Marie. Wessel, we thank you that you have made time to also join us today, and you can go ahead.
Lizelle, thank you very much. I just want to welcome everybody that attend this program today. We really have a lot of appreciation for Agbiz and the QCTO. So Koos, would you please just also forward our thanks of support to Mr. Fanny Vetla and Mina McLeod, who cannot be attending today. They are in Cape Town. So we all know that the purpose of the workshop is to provide our skills development providers with a practical know-how on how to implement the occupational qualification for grain depot managers. And I would like to encourage everybody of you to, when you get to the questions part, to ask the relevant questions. It's now the time to do that. So, Lizelle, thank you so much for facilitating this workshop. We really appreciate it. And then I just want to also thanks to everybody that make a contribution from the QCTO. This includes Anne-Marie, who's going to talk to us about the certification and the QCTO qualifications. David Taga, the accreditation criteria and guidelines. Very welcome. And then also for Rowan Paul, that will talk to us about the competency-based assessment And we have then Patricia Tahani, that will share with us the quality assurance occupational qualifications. And then we have Johan van Rensburg, that is with VKB. He's a manager grain services with VKB, and Johan will conclude, give us a final word from the grain industry on the importance of this qualification. So just going forward, I would like to ask everybody to please mute your microphones and your cameras. It's only the presenter who will have his camera and his microphone that will be active. But just to give you an indication on the attendees today, we have about 34 attendees that registered. I see there's more. There's 39 on the screen, and so from an Agbiz grain point of view, every one of our members and the representative of the human resources departments is also present today, and I really would like to welcome you, especially for today, and for your support. Agbiz grain, just short, we handle and store about 70% of all the grain and oilseed commodities in South Africa. That's the commodities that, like most, gets exported, and it makes a big contribution to the welfare of our citizens in terms of the food security, access to affordable food. So, and all these grain graders make sure that that grain that's collected and stored with our facilities, that it's up to a certain standard to be traded in the market. So this qualification is quite very important. We are busy with a sampling protocol, and it also plays a role in that protocol. So then I would just like to we have about a couple of service training providers that I would like to welcome. I may exclude some of you that registered for this workshop is Spiritum, BRK Business Services and Consulting, AM Grain Solutions, Africa Skills, Zurich Iboma Grain Services, the Grain Training Institute, IAF Services, Sim Academy, and CFS Colleges. And apologies if I didn't mention everybody. So we are very excited. Before I give over back to Lizelle, I just want to mention that the next steps for this that must happen after this workshop early next year is to get a workshop together where we have our industry, members of our industry, for a week to get together and to get a question database together, example questions, and lastly, to appoint an administrator to administrate this process on behalf of everybody, and then also to register an examination center. So, Lizelle, with that, I would like to give it over to you, and thank you for facilitating this. It's all in your hands now. Thank you. And enjoy the workshop and ask a lot of questions. Thanks for attending.
Okay. So Dennis, daai ietsie wat ons al lank al wou doen en toe stop ons daarmee, hè.
Someone
Want
on
ek het dit nie verstaan nie, maar daai gaan beter lyk, nee.
is not muted.
Advertensies vir
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask Mrs. Annemarie Jans van Rensburg, who is the Director of Certification at the QCTO. She oversees the certification unit, which is what we all work towards at the end of this qualification. Annemarie, thank you so much for your participation, and we are listening intently to what you have to share with us today.
Annemarie, would you like me to share your presentation?
Yeah, I want to share my presentation quickly. If you just give me a moment, I just want to switch on everything that I can do my presentation. Thank you. Okay, good day everyone. I'm Annemarie Jans van Rensburg. I'm the Director for Certification at the QCTO. And I heard the comment to say that we should not start at certification, but I'm actually glad that we are starting at certification because that is actually the end point, but also the beginning of the process to a certain extent, because everything that is done leads to certification, and if the beginning is not correct, the end can also not be correct. I just want to hear if I'm audible before I continue.
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Anne-Marie. Thank you. And we can also see your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Liselle, I
cannot
can
see-
just maybe mention that it's a little bit soft. I don't know if there's something that Anne-Marie can increase the volume. I don't know.
Settings. To be fine. Okay, is it better now? I'll speak a bit louder as well. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you well, Anne-Marie. It's okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's then go to presentation. Okay, so as I said, I'm glad that we are actually starting at the end point because the beginning informs the end point. So I think that's maybe a good start for this round as well. So thank you also for the opportunity to present here today. So I'm just going to talk about the certification part, and the SDP is not directly involved with the QCTO in the certification part for occupational qualifications, but they are for the skills programs. But today's presentation is focused on occupational qualification and its rollout. So I'm going to focus on that part only. So we work closely what we call the AQP or the QP, the quality partner that deals with the assessment, and with regard to the assessment results that inform certification. So, but I am going to take you through the process that you know what it entails and what is involved here. In terms of the QCTO's vision, I will just start there quickly to just indicate that our vision is to qualify a skilled and capable workforce, and to do so we need to issue the certificates to learners who have newly qualified in the qualification. And our mission is to effectively and efficiently manage the occupational qualification sub-framework in order to set standards, develop and quality assure national occupational qualifications for all who want a trade or occupation and where appropriate professions. So this is also important to note that we have published occupational qualification sub-framework in 2021. So I'm sure you are all aware of that as well in implementation of qualifications. And then that we are also moving to a new set of qualifications and not just the occupational qualification that was in the previous occupational qualification sub-framework. In issuing a certificate, we look at a whole lot of different factors that informs that. So I called it issuing a certificate, but we can call it many things. Just to indicate that the occupational certificate is in the middle there. The QCTO is the main partner here, and we work with a lot of partners. We accredit SDPs, we work with assessment partners, we work with assessment centers, and then obviously we work with the qualification development team, and then the registration of the qualification on the NQF. All of that must be in place in order for us to issue a certificate in the end. So each role player has important parts that they contribute towards the issuing of that occupational certificate in the end. And I think after the qualification is developed, the next step that we do is we accredit the SDP to offer that qualification to the learners. And with that, there's a whole lot of factors that plays a role in the SDP's function there. One of the big parts there that contributes towards certification is the registration of learners to offer the qualifications and the correctness thereof. And then obviously your assessment centers that are also accredited to assess the learners in the qualification, your assessment partner that sets the ISA, that then also ensures that the results are processed, and the QCTO that approves the results before certification can be done. In terms of our responsibilities as the QCTO, we work according to two sets of legislation. The one is the Skills Development Act and the other is the National Qualifications Framework Act. So both of them are important pieces of legislation that guides the QCTO and gives us our mandate to perform our functions. We issue the certificates then also in terms of the Skills Development Act, trades, occupations. We issue it in terms of Section 26D4, and for other occupational qualifications and skills programs in terms of Section 26H3B of the Skills Development Act. Then we also have a responsibility as the QCTO to ensure that the learner records, once certified, is submitted to the National Learner Records Database, which is the responsibility of SAQA to maintain that. And then we have our QCTO policies and directives that guides. So, as I said, we are mandated to issue the occupational qualifications on our sub-framework, and there are 3 sub-frameworks, of which one, the one is maintained by the QCTO, the other one by Umalusi, and that is related to the school qualifications and the TVETs, and then the higher education, which is done by the Council of Education. The QCTO has published also 3 policies with regard to certification and its verification functions, and these policies can be obtained from the QCTO website. Yes.
We have lost your presentation. Can you just maybe just check what happened there? If you could maybe just share it again. There we go. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. So I talked about this slide now with regard to our policies, legislation, and our mandate with regard to certification. As I indicated, we have published 3 policies, 1 policy on the on certification, 1 with regard to the security in the process, and another policy with regard to our verification function, which is also an online function with regard to the verification of the authenticity of certificates, where we have clients that register with the QCTO through a service level agreement, and we have an online real-time feedback with regard to verification. So if the SDPs are interested in that as well, to verify any qualification that the QCTO has issued, the trades and occupational certificates, they can also contact us for that. Already indicated what the policies are, and we strive to issue certificates within 21 working days after the approval results. I must say we have a good track record on that we are actually doing that between 5 and 7 days. So that's one of our functions that we really strive to maintain, to have the certificate in the hand of the learner as quick as possible. The SDP responsibility is with regard to the learner enrollments. That is a very important factor that feeds into the certification process. If the learner data is incorrect, the certificate will be issued incorrectly. You must ensure as an SDP that you have entered the learner's information as on the ID document, and that it is verified at a stage by the learner on your enrollment system to ensure that the certificate in the end will be issued accurately. In many cases, we get misspelled names, or the learner is known by a name, but it is not on the ID document, and it creates issues for the learners with regard to the verification once the certificate is issued by a prospective employer. So it is really crucial that you pay attention to the detail with regard to learner enrollment. And that is from my side the most important part that the SDP is playing towards the certification of learners. There are many other things that they do as well that my other colleagues, I'm sure, will cover as well. Then our assessment partner responsibility, which we also call our AQP or our QP, is to verify learner information and details for entry to the external integrated summative assessment. Also, the learner cannot do the external integrated summative assessment if the learner was not issued with a statement of results by the skills development provider. And that is important that details actually correspond also to the ID document of the learner with regard to the learner information, the ID and the names and so on. And it is important that the SOR is issued also in relation to the qualification requirements in the qualification document and the curriculum document. The assessment partner also conducts the ISA, receive and process the assessment outcomes in the approved format, keep a record of the assessment results, distribute the certificates to the learners. So this is not the responsibility of the skills development provider. Once the learner has completed the training, then the learner goes on to the next step, which is the assessment. And then that responsibility, the learner then registers with the assessment center, which has a link to the assessment quality partner, and that is the way that the certificate is then distributed to either the assessment center or the learner itself, as it is managed by the assessment quality partner. And then also establish a process for requesting the reissue of certificates where there may be any administrative errors on resulting an assessment. So if there's an issue there, then it can also be addressed through a reissue process. And just to indicate what the QCTO certificate looks like, we have a few security features on our certificate. Some of them are known to the public and some of them are not known to the public. So we want you to know some of these features, which I've flagged here, and there are 7 points that you can note on the certificate. When the certificate is held to the light, you will see the RSA watermark embedded in the paper. We have a gloss pattern with a border printed from silver to red. We have the RSA coat of arms because it's a national recognized qualification and certificate, and also internationally recognized through our international comparability in the development of the qualifications. We have the laser perforation of the serial number. The serial number is our tracking number and our control number, and that is also specific to each certificate that we issue. And we have a serial number with bleed-through ink and foiling in different colors. For the occupational certificate, we use the silver foiling. For our trade certificates, we use a gold foiling. A red foiling, and I'm sure you have heard about red seal certificates. So that is what it relates to. This is just an example of an occupational certificate. So if you see the certificate, it has the CEO signature on, it has the qualification name on, it's an occupational certificate, the NQF level, the learner name and ID number, and when it was assessed, there's a certificate number and this one. And there's a very important also, there's a QR code on the certificate at the top there, just next to the left of the government logo, which is a QR code that you can also read through a QR reader on your cell phone that can verify the certificate. And I think that is shortly from my side on the certification part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. That was very informative. If anybody has a specific question with regards to certification for Anne-Marie, you can just raise your hand and we will then acknowledge you, or you can just put your question in the meeting chat. I'm having a look at the chat. I am sure, Anne-Marie, there is a question of whether your slides will be available. So if we can distribute it to the members of Agbiz Grain, those who were not able to attend, we're also recording this workshop, so that would also be made available.
Yes, I'm sure that is fine. I've already sent you the presentation. You can just put it in a PDF format and then distribute to the
We'll
members.
do that. Thank you so much. Then I'm acknowledging Lucas Mahlangu.
Good afternoon, Liesel and Anne-Marie.
Hi,
Yes, it's Lucas. My question is regarding the grain qualification, is that it consists of certain modules or different modules. In terms of certification, must the learners complete all modules before they become certified, or can they do a certain module and have sort of like a partial certification or something that proves that they've already completed a certain module?
Okay, Lucas, you were breaking up a little bit. Have I understood your question correct? That you're asking whether the learner should complete all knowledge modules in order to be certified?
Yes, correctly. Or you can maybe, let's say, for an example, complete one or two and have sort of like a confirmation or a partial certificate that
Okay.
proves that you have already completed that one. Thank you.
Okay, Anne-Marie, is that clear?
Yes.
The
Yes,
question?
no, that's clear. Thank you very much, Lucas. No, you will not get a partial certification. A certificate is issued only at completion of the qualification, and the qualification is only completed once the external integrated summative assessment is completed. And I think Rowan will speak a bit more to that. So a module is completed and the skills development provider keeps a record of the modules completed. At the end of completion of all modules, or as the provider want to, maybe issue it partially to the learner as well, we call it the issuing of a statement of results. That is the access to the external integrated summative assessment, and that then indicates the completion of the modules. But the qualification is only certified once it is completed in full.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Then there is a question about the entry requirements for certification.
I think, thank you. I think that we must not confuse certification with assessment. Certification only starts once assessment is completed and once the results are actually approved. So there's an entry requirement with regard to offering of the qualification. So can I enter at the SDP for this qualification? And the next entry requirement would be, am I eligible to do the external integrated summative assessment? So the qualification document indicates, the curriculum document, what is required to enter for the external integrated summative assessment, and that is usually completion of all the modules of the qualification, which is in most of the qualifications that I've seen compulsory to be completed to enter for the external integrated summative assessment. And then there may be other requirements that inform certification in the end, not only the completion of all the modules plus the external integrated summative assessment. There was also the foundational learning competence that is still part of many of the qualifications. That is also an entry requirement of the ISA. So for certification, not, but definitely for assessment and to offer the qualification at the SDP. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. I will also share the curriculum document in the chat for those people who has not seen it yet. You can maybe have a look at it. All the entry requirements to the qualification to be able to be eligible for the entry to the qualification is also listed on there. Then there's a question from Johan van Rensburg who's asking on the issue of RPL. How will the final assessment work without a statement of results? I suppose from the SDP then.
Yes, I think I'm going to throw that back to Rowan to address in his presentation on the assessment, because that's part of the assessment, but we also, the QCTO also has an RPL policy. that I think Rowan can talk to, and then the RPL process also ends with the issuing of a statement of. But I think Rowan can speak a bit to that on his presentation as well.
I will just make a note of it so that we can just remember to ask Rowan when he has the opportunity. Then Quiz from QCTO is asking if there's any cost on issuing, I suppose, the original certificate, not a reprint.
Yes, there is a cost of the first issue as well. That cost is paid by the assessment quality partner to the QCTO, and we determine that cost on an annual basis, but we usually publish it 3 years in advance. Currently, I think the cost is 134 rands per certificate, and then obviously if you do a reissue or if you have lost your certificate, there is also a cost to that. Then there's a question as to what is the NQF level. I'm not 100% sure on this qualification. I think you would be in the best position to answer that.
Yes. I am trying to add it to the chat, but
Level
it's
5.
but it's
NQF level 5.
yes.
Rowan, thank you.
Good. Are those all the questions for Anne-Marie? Because she's going to leave us, but I'm sure that her colleagues would also be able to assist should we have any questions going further. But with that, Anne-Marie, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very informative, and we appreciate your hard work at the QCTO, and best of luck for the next year.
Thank you very much for the opportunity as well, and good luck with the implementation.
Thank you. Right, then it brings us to our next presenter, who is Mr. Rowan Paul. He's the Deputy Director of Assessment Standards at the QCTO, and he is responsible for ensuring that all full and part qualifications have the correct assessment standards in place for the external integrated summative assessment. So you will hear a lot about the ASA. The ASA is what is the acronym for the external integrated summative assessment, but I'm sure that Rowan would give you more than enough information on this. And in the meantime, I'll just ask Annelien to put the curriculum document on the chat. Rowan, thank you so much for your attendance. You can go ahead.
Oh, apologies, I thought it was accreditation.
Hi, good afternoon, colleagues. Can you hear me and see me?
We can see you, we can hear you, Rowan. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to start my presentation and you'll just confirm if you can see my presentation I'm presenting now. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, great. What are you seeing? I think you are, okay, let me disconnect my second screen.
Yes, we are seeing the presenter view.
Okay, let me just, is that better? I think you're seeing it correctly now.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, colleagues, once again, and thank you for the opportunity for inviting me to the meeting and engaging with you. And you know, thank you for the interest for the proactive approach that you are taking. You know, you want to be capacitated beforehand to ensure that you are better equipped to roll out this qualification. So thank you for that. So as our chairperson as indicated, I work with assessments. I work in the assessment unit, the Deputy Director for Assessment Standards, and my role involves ensuring that the correct assessment assurance processes are in place for the final external integrated summative assessment. Okay, so whilst my presentation will talk about competency-based assessments, which is what the external integrated summative assessment is about, I'm also going to touch on formative and summative assessments, that will be the responsibility of the skills development provider or the training provider that is rolling out the qualification or implementing the qualification. So I'm just going to rush through this because I think Anna-Marie just touched on the background on who we are as the Quality Council. So we are responsible for setting occupational standards and for quality assuring provisioning, assessment, and certification of qualifications registered on the OQSF of the NQF. Okay, the QCTO is therefore responsible for assessment assurance of the following: all occupational qualifications, part qualifications, legacy trades, legacy full qualifications, provider-based qualifications, NATED 190, 191 programs, as well as the newly implemented skills programs recorded with the QCTO. So role of assessments in occupational qualifications and part qualifications. In order to achieve a qualification or part qualification, a learner must prove competency. During training or RPL, the learner must undergo continuous formative and summative assessment in order to be declared competent in each module of the curriculum. Sorry, that was supposed to be curriculum there. A formal internal summative assessment conducted at the end of each module or an integration of modules must be recorded in order to feed into the statements of results that's issued. So yeah, before I go on over there, I just want to take you a little bit back. Those of you who are familiar with our curriculum or familiar with the curriculum, specifically with the grain depot manager, you would see that the curriculum has 3 types of modules. It has knowledge modules, it has practical modules, and it has workplace modules. There is an expectation, I'm sure our latest speakers, especially Mr. Hane, will touch up on this, but there is an expectation from the from the training provider to take the learners through those modules. And in those modules, you will be required to set formal internal summative assessment, and this must be conducted at the end of each module. That's the knowledge module and the practical modules, and this must be recorded in order to feed into the statements of results that is issued. The statement of results is a requirement for the entry into the ISA. So another speaker had asked that question as well, and Anna-Marie clarified over here, and we're also clarifying it with assessments. The statement of results is a requirement to enter into the FISA, which is a compulsory national final assessment that must be completed in order for successful candidates to be certified. So the learner must be competent or must achieve all the modules, be issued with a statement of results, thereafter will gain entry into the ASA, and upon successful completion of the ASA, as well as other rules that Anna-Marie has alluded to, then only will the learners be certified. Now, when Anna-Marie spoke about the other rules, we do check that entry requirements are met. There are rules such as it is only an accredited training provider that can offer the qualification. So if a learner is coming through us and we find out that the center or the assessment or the SDP is not accredited, then that's not complying to the rules for certification. So there are other rules, including a foundational learning component that is still applicable to qualifications that are on the NQF level 4 and below. Okay. Back to assessments. There are 2 types of assessments that must take place: continuous internal assessments, formatively and summatively conducted by the accredited SDP, and an external integrated summative assessment or ASA that is conducted by a quality partner. Now, in this case, the quality partner for the grain depot manager is the AgriCTA. Okay, and I haven't seen the invite list. I'm sure AgriCTA representative is here, but I know that we've already started work in preparing the final integrated summative assessment for this particular qualification. We actually started it all the way in 2019. We were looking at it before the qualification was even registered. Internal formative assessment. Formative assessment, needs to be conducted by the accredited training provider, and it is designed to feed into further learning and is key for the learning process. So formative assessment, as you know, it informs your teaching and it involves the learning. It is to assess whether or not the learner is understanding the curriculum and perhaps it informs your teaching or teaching methodologies. We're familiar with formative assessments and its purpose. So we expect that of you. We expect you to implement formative assessment so that we can support and guide the learner towards achieving later on in the internal summative assessment, okay? A range of formal, non-formal, or informal assessment procedures are used to focus teaching and learning to improve learner success. We're not prescriptive on the type of assessments or formative assessments that must be implemented, so you can use a whole range. We would ask you to, or rather as an SDP, we expect you to contextualize this to the qualification to see what is best suitable for the qualification, as well as the learners that you have enrolled at your institution. Formative assessment is, for example, verbal educator-learner interaction with individual learners, providing feedback to learner, demonstrations, quizzes, informal class tests, etc. on part or completed work. So formative assessment is during training. Such assessment may be recorded by facilitators to provide a holistic progress of their learners to assist further learning and achievement of all associated assessment criteria. Internal summative assessment. These are developed and conducted. So they are developed and conducted by the accredited SDP according to the assessment criteria for each module found in the curriculum document, as well as the associated criteria in the registered qualification documents. Okay. The aim of internal summative assessment is to evaluate the learning that has taken place and the extent to which this learning has been completed successfully. Internal summative assessments are conducted at the end of each modules, and you may even integrate relative modules or related modules. These must be done using a variety of methods. They could be written or practical tests, case studies, scenario assignments, briefs, projects, etc. There must be a valid internal quality assurance and verification process for all internal assessments conducted, which includes assessment plans, marker moderators reports, and checks in place for recording results. So this is an expectation that we have of you as an SDP. An assessment must be developed according to a particular plan, and it must be moderated, and all this must be kept in place for the recording of results. Summative assessments must be completed for each module and formally recorded by the accredited SDP as these feed into the statement of results, the SORs, that must be issued, which is an admission requirement for the ASA. Should a learner be found not yet competent in any of the modules, he or she would need to be reassessed, as only learners declared competent in all modules on the SOR will be allowed entry into the ASA. So just to answer, or to just to revisit that question that was asked earlier on, will they get part recognition, or will they be admitted if they don't complete all modules? Here's your answer again. It is clear. You have to complete all modules. Okay. It should be noted that an SOR is valid for a period of 2 years. That's according to our assessment policy as well. As an SDP, we urge you to please keep proof of all internal summative assessments conducted, okay? Even if it's digitally stored, until the learner has been certified, and may thereafter be disposed of, provided all relative summative assessment results have been recorded for historic purposes, okay? So please be aware that at a particular point, you as an SDP, you will be required to issue the statement of results, okay? But we may verify those statement of results, and the way in which we will verify those statement of results is to actually look at your internal assessments that was used to issue that statement of results. Okay, assessment criteria. SEQA defines assessment criteria as standards used to guide learning and to assess learner achievement. Assessment criteria is found in the curriculum documents for each module, and the associated assessment criteria is found in the qualification document for each module, for each exit level outcome. Assessing learners according to assessment criteria is absolutely critical to ensure that the learner achieves the required learning outcomes for each knowledge module and practical module of the curriculum, and is also embedded in the workplace statement of results competency, found The statement of results, workplace statement of results competencies are found in the back of the curriculum document. Okay. Assessment criteria has the purpose of taking the learner on a journey of competency to the final ASA. So I put in the slide over here to talk to you about the fact that what you are, or to enlighten you as to what you as a training provider is responsible for. You are responsible for assessing the learner on each module using assessment criteria. Okay. However, the ASA, the external integrated summative assessment, it does not intend to reassess all individual assessment criteria. It's very important to note. Okay. The ASA intends to gauge whether or not the candidate is competent at the end in order to be a worthy practitioner of a specific occupation or trade. So the final integrated summative assessment. The QCTO's objective is therefore to promote the development and implementation of final assessments which give a reliable indication of learner achievements and to indicate a consistent level of attainment, including over time between comparable assessments. By implementing and regulating final assessments, the QCTO also has the public objective of promoting confidence in the achievement of qualifications registered on the NQF. For the post-school system, strengthening final assessment systems for national qualifications has become a priority. To achieve this objective, the QCTO will ensure that relevant standards for final assessments for all qualifications registered on the OQSF, as well as occupational skill programs are implemented for the development of assessment instruments. The QCTO monitors the quality of final assessments, as well as moderation practices and credibility of assessment processes in order to approve learner achievements for certification. Competency assessment. To QCTO, the competency model for final assessments is of the utmost importance. This mode of assessing ensures that learners complete a final assessment in order to determine whether they have the required competencies, which are specific knowledge and skills, to perform well in the world of work. The ASA is a final assessment which integrates knowledge, practical and or work experience to assess the proficiency of a learner against the stated exit level outcomes of an occupational qualification or part qualification. All final assessments are competency-based assessments. The evidence produced by the candidate will declare whether he or she has achieved the required occupational standards in order to work capably. This approach is used to produce competent, work-ready learners. The purpose of the ASA, it is to assess learners against the stated ELOs of the qualification. It is needed to be certified. If a learner does not successfully complete an ASA, they will not be certified. Very importantly as well, the white paper for post-school education states that external assessment should be administered to reveal poor performance from training providers. And we have given effect to that particular aim of that paper by implementing an external assessment. So it helps us gauge performance from training providers so that the QCTO, along with our quality partners, can focus our efforts towards capacitating service providers or training providers if the final assessment reveals poor performance from them. So that's quite important as well. Competency assessment, determining competency. So I just want to give you a definition from SACWA. They say competency is specific knowledge and or values and or skills that can be applied in learning and or for work. Okay, occupational qualifications seek to achieve competency for the workplace. The ASA is intended to be a competency-based assessment that determines if the candidate has a specific knowledge and or values and or skills in order to fulfill the tasks and responsibilities of the work. Okay. The ASA takes the form of a final competency assessment that must be completed by each learner. It is based on occupational standards. This means that learners are assessed against a set standard or benchmark as entrenched in the curriculum document. Okay, so remember in your curriculum, or rather If you're familiar with the curriculum document, you would see that there's a section on the occupational profile. You would notice that a lot of our new occupational qualifications, the actual title of the qualification is the title of an actual occupation. So in this case, it is the grain depot manager. So in section 2 of the curriculum for the grain depot manager, you will see an occupational profile. On that occupational profile, they will list the occupational tasks and the responsibilities that which that particular occupation or that incumbent of the occupation is responsible for in the workplace. So our competency-based assessment, our ASA, is actually testing to see whether or not the learner can meet those occupational standards in the occupational profile. Okay, it is based upon successful completion of evidence demonstrated, produced, or provided by the candidate. The expected level of competency to be displayed by the learners are occupational standards derived from the ELOs and elaborates on the level of competence required to perform successfully in the relevant occupation or trade. Assessment standards guide the developers and moderators of the final assessment instruments as to the requirements, specifications, guidelines, and characteristics of the ASA upfront, as captured in the course addendum, which ensure consistency with use and that all developed instruments and processes are fit for purpose. So we have a whole process. Now, behind the scenes, we work with the assessment quality, or well, the quality partner, that is the AgriCTA. The AgriCTA, they will develop a document called a course addendum, which sets those standards for the final assessment upfront. And those standards are actually, they are derived or they are sort of yeah, they are derived from subject matter experts that represent industry. So they will give us the standards and we capture it in the course addendum document. And that course addendum document forms a blueprint. It is actually a blueprint of how the final assessment will look. And that's a document that gives guidance to developers of these final assessments as to what you should test for. So that's our way of ensuring that no matter who develops that instrument from our AQ, from our quality partner, even if there's different people developing it, and even if if you look at the different assessments that are derived from that blueprint, which is the course addendum, we still ensure consistency. QCTO's management of these assessment standards are developed by industry subject matter experts in the final assessment, as well as the evaluation of quality assurance processes throughout the final assessment process forms the foundation of the approval or decline of final learner results. I think Anna-Marie has alluded to the fact that it is our quality partners that manage the conduct of the ASA. Okay, now they will manage AgriCTA will manage the conduct of the ASA through the standards that are being put in place by the QCTO according to our assessment policy, as well as all our processes in place to achieve certain quality assurance requirements. So all these standards will be adhered to, and if those standards are not adhered to, we as the QCTO may decline these results. So obviously we proactively try to assist and guide, and we work with our QPs in making or ensuring that these standards are achieved. Being declared competent in the final assessments means that the successful candidate would have been able to perform at an expected skill level, respond and react well to unexpected or new situations, and fulfill the expected role in the workplace confidently by applying acquired skills, knowledge, and experience. Yeah, and I think that's it from me. That's my presentation. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you, Rowan. I appreciate you jumping in. I realized that in my head, after certification, the wrong way around is then assessment. So I'm so sorry, David. It was actually your slot. But thank you, Rowan, for jumping in without, in the wrong order. Okay, so do you have any questions for Rowan in terms of assessment? I'm sure you have a lot of questions. There's a lot of different processes and concepts as SDPs were used to in terms of the legacy qualifications. Assessment looks totally different in this world of the occupational qualification. So there were a question about the formative assessments, Rowan. They ask if the learner does not achieve well in the formative assessment, what happens then? And do they have to complete a portfolio of evidence?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that question. So if you look at the purpose of formative assessment and what it seeks to achieve, a formative assessment is actually it's assessing of teaching. Okay. So that means that if learners are performing poor in the formative assessment, then perhaps teaching strategies need to be adjusted so that the learner can grasp the work. So essentially, formative assessments, its purpose is to determine whether the learner is grasping the work or not. So if a learner is underperforming in the formative assessments, that means that they are not grasping the work. That means that some sort of support needs to be given to them. So, and you know, that's this part of teaching and learning. So I hope I've answered you over there. Regards to, I'm reading from the chat now. With regards to the second question, sorry, Lozelle, you can go ahead.
Yes, they want to know if we still assess with a portfolio of evidence.
Okay, great. So with the portfolio of evidence, remember with the QCTO, yeah, if you look at our assessment policy specifically talks about supervised assessment. Supervised assessment is assessments that is done in the presence of an assessor or an invigilator. Right. Now, if you look at it by definition of a supervised assessment, portfolio of evidence doesn't form part of that. Okay. So we require for the summative assessment, okay, we will require it to be an authentic assessment. Now, it's difficult to determine authenticity with portfolio of evidence. Okay. Portfolio of evidence is like an assignment. I mean, you can take it home. How can you guarantee that that is indeed the learner's work? So I'm not going to say that it's not allowed. It's perhaps useful for the formative assessment, but for the summative assessment for each module, I would recommend that it should be some form of supervised assessment where the learner sits down in the presence of an assessor or an invigilator, and the assessment is administered to the learner in the form of a practical or in the form of a written component. So to answer your questions, it's not a requirement to complete a portfolio of evidence. If you feel it is useful to assess the learner formatively, go ahead. But for the summative assessment, I would recommend please look at our policy, because our policy clearly highlights the use of a supervised assessment. Yeah. Thank you. Lizelle, back to you.
Rowan, okay, so if I understand you correctly, the formative and summative assessment, well, in terms of formative assessment, it's really up to the SDP to determine which way would be the best way to either assess the knowledge or the practical or the workplace component. And then when we talk about summative assessment, the summative assessment should almost be in the same format as an ASA, because it's actually preparation for the ASA, where we say we think in terms of our training and the practical exposure that this learner is now ready to do the ASA. And that should be an invigilated process where an assessor is present, the learner is doing a written assessment on all the aspects as per the curriculum document.
Yes, Lizelle. You know what we need to ensure? We need to ensure that that summative assessment result for the module is authentic. And it's difficult to determine authenticity with the portfolio of evidence. However, I'm not saying that the portfolio of evidence cannot be used for formative assessment.
Sure. I understand that. Then there's also a question, and I know that a lot of SDPs have this question, and it's about using assessors and moderators as we used to in the legacy qualifications. Do we still need registered assessors and moderators who are registered with the AQP? Do they still need to complete the assessor and moderator course in order to be used as an assessor and moderator, or do we just use subject matter experts?
Okay. Thanks, Lizelle, for that question. So once again, if you look at the curriculum document under or at the end of each knowledge module, at the end of each practical module, there is a human resource requirement. It is over there where we specify the assessors as well as the facilitators, what their qualifications, etc., must be. We do not require assessors and moderators to be registered. Okay, we only require that those facilitators who can assess the learners, and obviously somebody else needs to moderate normal moderation processes apply when you develop an assessment. There will be somebody who develops it, and there needs to be somebody that moderates it. That's pre-moderation, and then post-moderation is actually on the learner's assessments or results. We also expect that. We just expect you to follow the requirements as per the curriculum. The human resource requirements are spelled out in the curriculum. When it comes to, and now that is for the internal assessment. Remember, the SDP will develop and administer and conduct the internal assessment for the learners against each module. It is the AQP, however, that will manage and conduct the ASA. Now, those assessors and moderators and developers of those instruments, the specification of those individuals that are involved, those assessment practitioners, the spec of them is specified in the course addendum. It is developed when we develop the course addendum, which is the blueprint. Okay, it is at that point that AgriCTA, as the QP, may require these people to be registered with them. But remember, it is AgriCTA who will appoint these people to do the work. So when they put out their adverts for people to come in and develop this ASA, they will specify this, what's the specification. Okay, I hope that clears it up, Lizelle.
Yes, thank you. Then there is another question from Lita, who asks where the ASA will take place and which body will administrate this. From my knowledge, and I had a meeting with Wessel on this just previously this week, the ASA will be administered at Agbiz Grain. Agbiz Grain will be registered as an assessment center with AgriCTA. The ASA has already been written. The course addendum has also been completed. The only thing that's outstanding on the ASA is the question bank that has to be developed. The question bank is literally what it says. It's a database of questions that will be used to compile the ASA in each one of the cycles that it happens. So it is a standardized examination that has been compiled by industry, and it has been facilitated by the QCTO in 2019. Rowan, I think you were there as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Were you there as well? Is that where we met?
I was there.
Okay, great. Yes.
And so we wrote it there, and and that's what Wessel alluded to when he said that early next year, we will then sit with those same people to compile the question bank that will then be used when we administer the ASA. So you will apply for the ASA once you have a statement of results for your learner. And Rowan, please correct me if I'm wrong, to AgriCTA. And AgriCTA will then liaise with Agbiz Grain in terms of registration of learners for the ASA. The ASA will then happen, I think, in 2 cycles, 2 times a year, and the learner will then go and sit in an examination room. There will be an invigilator, there will be assessors, the process will be moderated. QCTO is also involved in that process, and then the results will be made available to the learner. So I hope that answers your question, Lita. Then, are we looking for standardized questions for the summative assessment? Rowan, I'm not sure. I'm a little bit unclear. The summative assessment is an assessment that should be compiled in line with the assessment criteria as it is set out in the curriculum.
Yes. So when you're talking about the summative assessment, the assessment criteria for it is clear in the curriculum. So I'm not sure what you mean by standardized questions, especially for summative. Yeah, if you were talking about the ASA, we're not looking for exactly standardized questions, but we are looking for questions that sort of gauge a set standard in the course addendum.
That's
okay?
right.
So that's for the ASA. So that's what you're looking at over there. You're looking at, we will develop a variety of questions, but they are gauging the same standard that is developed in the blueprint, which is the course addendum. As for your internal summative assessments at the SDP, you know, if it can't be standardized. We're not prescriptive over there. We're not going to standardize. We're only standardizing the external assessment, if you want to say that. We can't, there's no capacity to make sure everybody's internal summative assessments are all the same.
Thank you. Papa, I hope that answered your question. Then, if you are not yet accredited as a training provider, can you train employees internally and partner with an accredited training provider to do the assessment? So I can do the training, but if I need to provide my learner with a statement of result, can I then partner with an accredited training provider? So is it possible that way?
You know what? I'm pretty sure the answer to that question is no. But let my colleague, Mr. Taha, when he does his accreditation visit, perhaps Lucas, if you can pose that question to Mr. Taha.
Okay. Then, will competence be determined based on the full mastery of all the assessment criteria, question bank questions, or based on the percentage pass rate? For example, you know, 60%, 70%. So I think the question alludes to in legacy qualifications, competence was determined in terms of, do you comply with all the assessment criteria? And is it the same in terms of the occupational qualification? And I think the QCTO, what we set out there as a standard.
Yeah. So in response to that, Emmy, I can see Emmy is asking this question over here, right? So in my presentation, I tried to define competence over there, and you know, according to SACFO's definition for competence, it is specific skills and knowledge that can be used to assess or that will allow the learner to perform in the world of work. Okay, so it's not based, the competency-based assessment, which is the ASA, is not based on assessment criteria, but rather it is based on whether or not the learner has specific skills and knowledge, right, as well as attitudes to perform in the world of work. In other words, to perform the occupational tasks and responsibilities, okay? So that's what it's based on. It's not based on assessment criteria. I'm talking about the ASA now. The summative assessments, your internal summative and formative assessments, those are based on assessment criteria. But your external integrated summative assessment is not, it does not have the purpose of reassessing assessment criteria. It integrates knowledge, workplace, as well as practical modules to gauge whether or not the learner can fulfill the tasks and responsibilities of the occupation. Okay, so that is how competency is determined in the ASA. As far as a pass mark is concerned, etc., it is in the course addendum that pardon, it is in the course addendum where our industry will give us guidance on the competency level or pass marks that is required. And at this point in time, it has not been, or rather it has been determined, but I need to just go back and get that document. However, I just want to let you know one of the, please just, Liesel, can you just confirm is AgriCTA in this meeting?
Yes, AgriCTA is represented by Quiz Mashlangu.
Quiz Mashlangu. Okay, so I'm familiar with who was, I just forget her name now. Mina. So
Yeah,
I'm familiar with Mina. So anyway, so I'm happy to hear that our AgriCTA, our quality partners over here. So as our quality partner, what they are expected to do is they are expected to take an exemplar and publish it on their website. An exemplar is essentially it is the actual ASA, one particular version of the ASA. The AQP will be required, or the QP will be required to produce multiple ASAs, and then they will just take one and publish it as an exemplar. And that's where you will find the pass mark as well as the competency rating or competency requirement for that ASA. And that is essentially what we do. That is our process for guiding the STPs as to what their learners can expect in the ISA. Okay, so our AQP, our quality partners here, once these ASAs have been finalized, one of them will be used as an exemplar and is published on the website. It will be published on the website. Okay.
Yes, that's actually really important, Rowan. I was recently involved with another AQP, which is Health and Welfare CETA, and they have had their first round of ASA assessments and from various skills development providers, and 90% of their learners failed the ASA. And that was quite a shock in the industry and quite upsetting to skills development providers. And I think I did a little bit of research on this, and I think the problem lies in the fact that we still assessment criteria when we do the ASA. That's how we prepare our learners for the ASA, as opposed to you are now assessed in terms of competence in the occupation. So do you know? Can you practically apply? Can you critically evaluate? And can you, in a case study format, for instance, apply integrated knowledge? So
Yes.
skill development providers should really look at that exemplar once it's published and make sure that when you prepare your learners for the ASA, that you also make sure that they understand that it's a different type of assessment than your summative assessment. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Then was there another question? Just a question from my side, Rowan. Does the statement of result that the training provider or the SDP provide have to comply with certain requirements from the QCTO side? Does it have to look a certain way? Does it have to have certain information on it? We are used to the AQP issuing statements of results. So how does it look for a training provider when I have to issue a statement of results?
Okay, no, great. Thanks for that. So we do have a template for a SOR to be used. We will circulate that template to our quality partner AgriCTA, who will then circulate it to STPs or make it available to STPs. We are not prescriptive. We don't expect it to look the same, but we do prescribe the minimum information that's required on it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then there was a question about RPL. And the question was, do I need a statement of result for an RPL assessment as well?
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that. So remember, RPL, or recognition of prior learning, right, is to recognize, its purpose is to recognize learning no matter what format it took in, okay? The learner at the end of the day still has to achieve the qualification. So that means that, for example, a grain depot manager, perhaps somebody was practicing as a grain depot manager for many years. They need to, if they think RPL is for them, they still need to comply to the curriculum requirements. In other words, they need to comply to all the modules, okay? They may bring in evidence through that whole RPL process. They may bring in evidence that, okay, I've got evidence that I have achieved this module, or I know the work in this module, or I can prove competency against the assessment criteria in all these modules over here. So you see, with an SDP or a training learner, the statement of results is issued on the basis of formal training as well as internal formative and internal summative assessment against each module. RPL, the learner is still required to complete each module. It's just that instead of them going through formal training and formative assessment and summative assessment, they will need to bring evidence that they have achieved those modules. So essentially, or in other words, a statement of results is still required for an RPL learner. Whether a learner comes through a training or RPL, they will still need to be issued a statement of results, because what are you RPLing against then? You know what I mean? You need to ensure that the learner meets the curriculum requirements. One more thing about an RPL learner, once they undergo the RPL process and they have proved that they are competent in those modules, they will still need to undergo an ISA. So our model provides for, even you can, an RPL learner as well as a learner that goes through formal training must both undergo an ISA in order to be certified.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you do.
Yes.
So you would then typically apply for an RPL assessment via an SDP, who will then assess you formatively and summatively in order to issue you with an SOR.
Yes, essentially yes.
Okay.
And sorry, just to add on that, our policy allows for RPL to be administered not only at an SDP, but also at an accredited assessment center.
Okay, that's good information to know. Then just the last question from my side, Rowan, does the SDP also provide an SOR on the practical and the workplace experience? And do you require those as well for access to the ASA?
Yes, that is correct. So the SOR is for all modules, knowledge, practical, as well as workplace. So that is what we talk about when we talk about a statement of results. It is on all modules, okay? So yes, an SDP is required to produce all of that. However, on the back of the curriculum is a statement of work experience. Now that statement of work experience for the workplace modules, that is a statement that is issued to the mentor of the workplace, so that the mentor can fill in and confirm that the learner has partaken in all these workplace activities. Once an accredited SDP has that completed statement of workplace experience, along, with all the other evidence requirements, like if you look at the curriculum, it'll tell you if you're going to do this, then bring an attendance register or bring the minutes of the meeting or bring the, the job task or whatever it is. Once an SDP verifies all of that, then only can they transfer that into the statement of results and say that the learner is competent or has successfully completed the workplace modules. But for the practical modules, there's assessment criteria which you will assess internally. And for knowledge modules, there's assessment criteria which you will assess internally.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? None? Okay, thank you so much, Rowan. I appreciate your input. It was very informative.
Thank you.
David has just asked to quickly leave the meeting. He had to go to the CEO. So I am going to request Patricia to do her presentation on quality assurance. Patricia is the Deputy Director of the Quality Assurance Department at the QCTO. She's responsible for managing quality assurance of occupational qualifications and part qualifications that are implemented by accredited SDPs. Patricia, we look forward to your presentation.
Afternoon, colleagues. Can you all hear me and see me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
And you can see my presentation.
We're not seeing your yes, we're seeing your presentation now.
Okay, let me put it on this. Yes, thank you. Colleagues, I thought my colleague Rowan will indicate when do I come in, what triggers us to come to the SDP and do the monitoring of the qualification or the implementation of the curriculum. However, that is not in my presentation. I will just touch on it. After the SDPs are being accredited and now they have learners, within 21 days of having the learners in the system before they can even start teaching, they will have to complete a learner enrollment document, of which I will share all the information with Lizel, and then she will share it with you, colleagues. That is when I will stand up and say, okay, this SGPA has learners, or maybe all of you, you've got learners. It's my responsibility to make sure that I assign a person to an SDP to make sure that there is somebody who is coming to you. Most SDPs, they will see us as policing, but we are not policing. What we are doing a developmental supporting the SDP to make sure that what they have indicated that they are being accredited for, they are doing it correctly. That is when we are doing the implementation of the curriculum. However, at some point, you might find out we come at the later stage where even the learners are ready for ASA. Then we will do dual. We'll do curriculum implementation, then at the same time, do ASA readiness. All this is in the template that we will be using to make sure that we come up with a report to take to assessment unit to Rowan, to say, Rowan, this SDPs, now they are ready, they can go on with the ASA. And in this presentation, I will look at the quality assurance standards, the implementation of the program, learning materials, the planning, the records, human resource. I'll also touch on the assessments, and I will also touch on the workplace modules and the ASA. And lastly, we will touch a bit on the e-learning readiness, as we have seen that COVID has shown us flames. Some of us were not ready for it, so we must start being ready for any kind of disaster that will come into our space of education. The QCTO quality assurance standard, it is important to wear this cap when you go out and do the quality assurance. The following components are very important to us as the quality assurance personnel. The effectiveness of how you manage the process, the information, your resources at your SDP is very important. And the developmental of the occupational and part qualification is very important for the QA personnel to understand the space of that particular qualification. The validity of accreditation of SDP. The use of effective internal verification systems at an SDP. The quality assurance of external integrated assessment, Rowan has touched on that a lot. And the successful of validation of QCTO qualification. We really need to make sure that the QCTO qualification is validated and it's successful. I took this colleague from the qualification. I thought maybe one needs to touch on the purpose of the qualification, of which when we go to an SDP, for each and every qualification, you must have a background or the purpose of that qualification. We are not experts in the qualification, but we look at what is the qualification entails. So as when I get to the SDP to support them, I know what to touch on, when to touch on whatever, and obviously they will also assist us. For this qualification, the grain depot manager, of which is a 234 credits. 234 credits, it's 2-year qualification. We need to be careful on the notional hours of the qualification. The core competency of grain operation have been defined as the basic understanding and practical implication of the management of grain quality. We need to highlight that. Grain handling equipment. So we need to check if the equipments are correct and how are we going to handle them, as well as management of operational technology, facility operation, and human resource. There we need to have somebody who is qualified. We cannot just take any facilitator to come and make and facilitate this qualification of ours. So with regard to program implementation, when I get to your environment as an SDP, these are the things that I would like to see. That is the same environment that you are going to show to your the person who's coming to do accreditation. And when I come as a QA personnel, I want to see it as is. I want to see if the learners are in a very conducive environment where you are teaching them. Is it clean? You have enough furniture. Then let's touch on the OHS, of which is very important. We cannot put our learners in a very dilapidated environment where they are not safe. So it's very important that each and every year, if you have to have an OHS being, oh, my English is running away, Lizel. Yeah. Your OHS must be signed. We need to have the evacuation plan of the building. We need to see if everything is verified. Another thing that we also want to see is the fire extinguisher. If the fire extinguisher are in place, so as our learners are in a very good environment, conducive for learning and teaching, safe as well. The learning material. When we go to an SDP, we've got 2 Bibles that you must have. That is your qualification document. That will be your SAQA qualification document. That will be your curriculum document and the material. We usually check if the material that you are using is the same material that you used when you get accreditation. And is the material relevant? Is it fit for purpose for the qualification? And is the material approved? Somebody might ask, who approves the material? Obviously, when the accreditation people come to give you an accreditation, you will show them where you have, if you have bought the material from one company that is developing the material, you will show them that approval. If in your institution, you've got a unit where you develop your material, you will also show them that, no, we are doing our own material, we develop our own material. However, the material needs to be in line with what? With the curriculum. The operations now, that is when the SDP now is saying we are operating, we've got learners in place, we are making sure that we are offering their qualification. It is very important, colleagues, to make sure that you have induction. If you don't have induction, that can put you in trouble. Remember, some learners, they've got money, they can even take you to task if they fail. And if they are not being inducted, they will always say, no one told us about this qualification. So you must make sure you tell them about the disqualification. How are you going to unfold the qualification? As Rowan has indicated that we've got 3 components, of which is your knowledge, your practicals, and your workplace modules. So that is what you are going to indicate to the learners in your induction, that this is the process that we are going to take to unfold the qualification. The timetable and your other schedules. In your timetable, colleagues, this is what we want to see. We want to see how long are you going to offer your knowledge modules? When are you going to make sure that after each and every module, the learners are being assessed? We want to see that according to dates, even if you have to put times, I see some other SDP, they'll go in a length of putting even the time of the module. Your practical module, you have to indicate to the timetable, when are you going to do the practical module? How are you going to do them? And how are you going to assess your learners to see if they are ready for that module? And some SGPs, they've got other schedules. Some, they cannot put everything in a timetable. They will say the timetable is for facilitation, and other schedule, they use it for what? For the assessment. So they will have another timetable or schedule for the assessments. The learner records, these are very much important, colleagues. It's very much important that you must make sure that the learners, they sign the enrollment form. Some SDP, they'll go to an extent of making sure that there is a contract that the learners adhere to, where they will also put the code of conduct of how the learner must conduct themselves in an institution. The certified copies of ID. This is a very dicey space, but if you've got a POPI Act at your institution as one of your policies, you will make sure that they sign for that, and you will also sign on how are you going to use the certified copies of the learners' IDs. Us as the monitoring people, we don't take the copies of the ID, or we don't even take the ID numbers of the learners, because that will be against the POPI Act. So we just want to see if you have verified that this person that you are dealing with is Patricia Tahani indeed. If you have a foreign learner, you must make sure that you have a copy of a passport certified and also a study permit. So as we know that we've got somebody who is legal in the country. The entrance requirement of the qualification and other certified copy of the highest qualification. The entrance requirement, Rowan touched on one of the entrance requirement of the qualification, of which is the RPL. And when I look at this qualification, I saw it needs somebody who has matric, but the curriculum document as well will indicate what kind of a person do we need to enter into this qualification. So what the monitor will do will also check if your learners, you have accepted them with the correct entrance into the qualification. The signed attendance register of these modules is very important, and it's very crucial. Somebody might take it as a lousy thing, But when the learner fails, that is when this document comes in to say the learner was attending the program or not, because when they fail, that is when they start to complain. So you must make sure that you keep your learner attendance register up to date. Your facilitator must be the person who is responsible, because they will be going there to facilitate. So before they facilitate, they must make sure that the learners signs the attendance register. And we've got this element of learners with special needs. Special needs, it's so much very broad that one can talk about it the whole day, especially if you talk to the educational psychologist. However, for the sake of time and this program, what we always talk of when we talk of special needs is not only the eyesight or being disabled. It goes deeper into the learner asking for concession. Some learners are slow into reading. According to psychologically, the psychologist can tell you that this learner must get extra time and whatsoever. That also falls under the learner with special needs. Some learners, they are good in using their hands, but not being able to write or read, especially the reading part of it. You find out somebody is dyslexic. So that kind of a learner will need a reader when they write their exam. If there is that kind of a concession, it needs to be adhered to. But it's the responsibility of the SDP to make sure that you put that in your QMS file, that there is a policy in special need. And these are the things that you look at. Learner orientation and learner support throughout the program. Orientation, I touched on it at the beginning. However, it is important that we support the learners throughout the program. And we need to have a tangible evidence that shows us what is it that the SDP is doing to make sure that the learners are supported. Some SDP will tell you that they use the WhatsApp platform where they throw in questions and they support each other on how to tackle some assignments or some work that has been given to the learners. Some will tell you that they use Microsoft Teams where they meet and talk about the program if the learners have some difficulties in one of the modules. We also want to see sorry. Oh, I've done something there. Okay. We also want to see the rollout training, how you recruited your learners. It's very important. Some of SDPs, they go via the industry. Like in your case, being honest, it was the first time for me to see that there is a grain depot manager, of which when I Google and check about this qualification, I see this is something that has been there for a long time. But you find out that there are people who are working in the industry and they don't have qualification. So you will go via the industry to recruit the learners. And this is also the rollout on how you train your knowledge module, your practical, and your workplace modules. And each and every module, you must indicate the length of each and every, for how long did you take to offer this module. Human resource colleagues, your facilitators, let's be honest, we cannot take each and every person to say, even if the person was an educator before, and say, come, you are going to facilitate this program. We need somebody who is knowledgeable of this qualification, who has more info, who understands the space, and more importantly, who has the qualification. Even if it's not education like a training facilitator qualification, but somebody who has something closer to what is being offered here. Because if we take each and any kind of a person, learners might fail because the person does not understand the space on what is it that you are going to offer. We also check, it's very important for us to check if there are some changes from the date of accreditation. Let's say is the venue, the ownership, even the facilitator. Remember, when you get accreditation, you are going to give the accreditation people the CV and the qualifications of the facilitators that you think they are going to be part of you when you are now accredited and offering. Sometimes it might be the person has left, but you got another person. So you must indicate to us that, okay, I had this facilitator, but now they've left. I've got the new facilitator. In my report, I will indicate that the facilitator is new, but what is important now? I must check if the facilitator has proper qualifications to offer this program. And it's also very important for an SDP to orientate your facilitators. And we also need to see the proof that you have orientated them. With what kind of documents did you use to orientate them? Even we can go up to an extent of seeing the attendance register for that meeting for orientation. And if there are any other difficulties from the facilitator, we will ask them. Usually we call a meeting aside with the facilitators and check with them. Are things okay with them? Are they getting joy? Or the owner of the SDP is giving them problems, so that we can iron out immediately there, especially when we are at the implementation. So as when the time comes for ASA readiness, everything is perfect. We also want to see who is doing the data capturing of the learner records. Whether you are summative assessment or you are formative, you are internal summative assessment, because it's very important. You cannot just give learners tasks and whatsoever, but you are not recording anything. So you must have somebody who is capturing all that. The assessment strategy. Rowan touched a lot on this. I'm not going to dwell on it. However, we want to see if you've got a policy for your assessment, if there is an assessment strategy document. And in your strategy, I have indicated there, for an example, your class tests, your assignment, your summative assessment. We want to see what kind of assessment are you giving to your learners. I'll tell you, I went to one SDP where I found out that they were asking learners true and false questions. I mean, if you ask them true and false questions, what are you saying to them? Are you not giving them some scenarios or some bigger task for them to understand the space more? So these are the things that we want to see. What kind of assessments are you putting in place? And we also want to see if you are taking account of the external assessment specification of the qualification. And are you also checking the outcome assessed per module? We want to see per each and every module. If you are knowledge modules, you have 6, 7 modules, we want to see if you are assessing the learners per module. We also want to see if the assessment is ongoing. We check the dates. You go to an SDP, you take the learner file, you find out that they have, you are there, it's December. The last time they get an assessment was in February. And now the SDP is telling you that the learners are ready for ASA. What makes them ready? Because you are not even checking them, you are not assessing them. There's nothing, there's no class test, nothing. So we check all those dates if there is a consistency in terms of making sure that the learner understands the modules. We also want to see if the practical modules were done, and if they were completed, where. in the premises or at the workplace. Some SDP, what they do is they will use the workplace as a place where they do their practicals and they do their workplace modules. But however, it's a bit dicey there because then you need to have a facilitator to go and facilitate the practical modules. Whereas at the workplace, they've got a mentor who will always be supporting them. The workplace modules. We also want to see if there is a mentor at the workplace. We need to see the contact details of the mentor. We want to see the signed MOU between the SDP and the employer at the workplace. And is it aligned to our curriculum? We don't want a situation where a learner is at the workplace, but they are not doing what they're supposed to do as per the modules, as per our modules in the workplace. You find out that the learner is there, but what they do, they're just cleaning, they're making teas and other things. We don't want that kind of a situation. We want to see if everything is according to our component. The status of the logbook, it needs to be signed, dated, signed by the learner, signed by the mentor, and it needs to be dated. If the logbook is not dated, the learner will not go into the ASA. It's very important, colleagues. And then at the progress of implementation, this is when the SDP says to us, no, we are ready for ASA. Then we'll check if they are behind or they are on time, the modules, how many modules are still need to be completed. And if the SORs are completed and issued, that is where Ruben will come in to give you the template of the SOR. Though even the QA personnel can always submit this to the SDP if they don't have the SOR template. We just want to see if things are in place, they are happening, and it's maybe at your second, it is at your second year, the last few months of your second year. But if I have to come in the first year of the program, maybe within 21 days after you have started offering the program, we will not touch on this because it will still be in the early stage of the offering the qualification. And what does it mean if the learners now they have done their ASA? Employing learners that have passed ASA have the following benefits, of which I thought I said to myself, maybe let me put this so that the SDP can put it as well into their orientation. I know sometimes a learner has to embark in a qualification, but they've got some mixed feelings to say, is it important for me to do this or not? But if maybe you have this as part of your orientation, this will give them that energy to come in and engage into the qualification. The learners will be competent workers. The learners, the employers can be confident in their readiness of their work skills. The learners who qualifies for ASA via apprenticeship, learnership or RPL route, they are all required to take the same standard as the ASA. I think Ruben touched on that as well. And the learners will be able to apply their knowledge into the knowledge and skills that they have learned from the qualification. So the employer will be very much confident to have that kind of learners. The ASA, our external integrated assessment. It is very important to check if you are accredited as an assessment center. This, in your case, I don't think it will apply because I was listening to the conversation. It seems as if the learners will go to your assessment center. But there are some cases where you find out that the SDP is accredited as an assessment center as well. Then there we will make sure that the invigilators are not the same as the facilitators. But this is just when the learners have to use the same center for assessment. The e-learning, after COVID, or maybe let me say COVID has taught us a lot to say we must not be too rigid and do things the same way all the time. We must always multitask and use a multiple model or remote of learning. So we'll always check if the SDP are using other method of teaching on learning. If not, what is the plan? Is there anything that they are doing to make sure that if something comes up, they will always be able to assist the learners? Thank you. I'm not sure why is it going back. That was the last slide of the e-monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. We appreciate the information that you shared with us. We have quite a few questions for you, so I hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
There was a question about signing attendance registers electronically. I suppose that's when you have the hybrid model of doing online training as well. Does the QCTO accept electronically signed attendance registers?
We do. And I have seen most SGPs lately, they're using Moodle. I'm not sure if you know Moodle, but most SDP, they're using Moodle as the platform for offering programs. And Moodle has that platform where the learners, they can print a proof that how many learners attended for that module. So we do take it.
Okay, and then there's also a question about access to the qualification. You can, Lucas, you can just check on the curriculum that will give you the requirements of what you need. Oh, well, actually, his question pertains to if I don't have grade 12, but I have an equivalent. Is that acceptable to the QCTO?
Liz, it will be acceptable only if the qualification says so. Remember, the entry to qualification is multiple. It's not only one where you'll say only matric or via RPN. Some they say equivalent to NQF level 4, of which is something except matric. And I think I have checked this qualification. There is something like that, because this is an industry qualification where you find most people have been into the system, but they don't have qualification. So we'll have to check that and give you a proper written document to say these are the entry requirements for this qualification, and they can use it as that as is.
Okay.
And I will talk to Rowan and Taha, and then we'll have to write something with regard to that.
Thank you, Patricia. And then there's a question about learning material. So as Rowan said earlier, it's up to the skills development provider on what training material they use and in which format it is. It doesn't work as previously in the legacy qualifications where the material has to be accredited by the QCTO. But I can just inform the people here that the Agbiz Grain has developed learning material in line with the curriculum, and it is available on their website. So skills development providers can use that learning material. It's free of charge. As long as you're a member of Agbiz Grain. I'm not sure, Vessel, maybe you can just help me there. And the training provider can really then adapt that learning material as they wish, as long as they eventually when they assess the learner complies with the assessment criteria of the various modules, whether it's knowledge, practical, or workplace modules.
Actually, I have seen that yesterday. I Googled and I have seen that material as well. I
Okay.
managed to get so much information on that. So they can use it for as long as they don't deviate from the curriculum.
Yes, Faisal?
Yeah, so we have the information available on the website. It's open to anybody to use because we would like to encourage all training providers to use that training material that's accredited and on standard. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, Faisal. And then there was a question from Faisal about the review of the learning modules. So when there are industry updates, so something, say a technological development happened in the industry, must the training material be updated, and how does it impact the curriculum as well as the assessment? So say for instance, there's a legislative change with regards to the handling of food and food safety. How would an SDP manage that?
That's a good one, Liz. And like I keep on touching on COVID. I think most companies, they've changed the way they do things because of COVID. However, it's just that we don't have somebody from a qualification department in this presentation who will tell us how do we go about adding more information on the qualification. Can we take that to the office, Rowan? Rowan,
Yes, sure.
can we take this one to the office so that we can give them a clear answer as to how do they go about adding information into the qualification?
Okay. Maybe I can just provide a little bit input in there if that's fine.
Okay.
So the qualification is registered for a period of 5 years. So at the end of the 5 years, when the qualification is due for or is going to be expiring, it is our quality partner that will initiate a re-registration. And in that re-registration, there'll be an opportunity to review if anything has changed. So we wouldn't be able to add anything. Look, if an SDP wants to be proactive and bring it into their classroom, that's fine. And bring about these new changes in, but you must just understand that at the ISA, we don't expect you to assess them on it because it's not part of the assessment criteria and the curriculum, and it won't come out in the ASA. I've seen, however, and I can see where this comment is coming from. There's somebody that put a question on the chat here. I think it was Vessel. No. Yeah, it was Vessel. And what I've seen is in a couple of qualifications where they don't specifically say, or quote the actual legislation, right? They just say according to current legislation. So in that essence, it makes it valid no matter what legislation comes about or rules, etc. So I think, you know what, maybe let's just check what the curriculum says. I know when it comes to aspects like that, those are the terms that are used in the curriculum to cater for the fact that a new legislation might come out, a new change might come out, a new regulation. They always use the words according to current regulations. So that's just my input. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rowan. Lisa?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Then there is a question about the registration of workplaces for practical training. Do workplaces also need to register with the QCTO?
No. Remember, when an SDP get accredited, there's one component that they need to submit, an MOU with the workplace. So that MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the employer and the workplace, it will be their agreement to say, every time when this SDP has learners, their learners for their workplace module will go to this workplace. There's no need for the workplace to be accredited by us. We don't accredit SDPs. However, we need to see that agreement. Even if after the accreditation, maybe the agreement is changed, or maybe the employer does no longer want to use does not want to work with the SDP. The SDP must get another employer, and they must have that kind of an understanding to say, every time when I have learners, my learners will come to you for their workplace modules, and you will provide us with the mentor.
Thank
So
you.
no need for their registration.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Patricia. Then there is another question, and maybe Rowan will have to come in here again. It's about doing the ASA online, as it's just logistically easier. If a learner is situated in the Cape Province and the assessment center is in Gauteng, obviously there's cost and there's production time lost. So does the QCTO acknowledge online assessments?
No, but Rowan, please answer.
Yeah, thanks for that. At this point, it's, we do not have the capabilities to proctor well this assessment, especially the external assessment. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I know we allow for use of online assessments, in other words, done on a computer, but still done at an assessment site. Not, for example, I've seen that where the learners go to an assessment center and do the assessment on the computer, right? But it's not like they can sit in their home and do the final assessment. We're not allowing for that at the moment. However, this also depends on our AQP's capability or our quality partners' capabilities at this point in time. I think we need to go and revisit the course addendum, because remember at this point, Liesel, I don't know if you can remember, we developed that course addendum at a point before the qualification was before it was registered. So we still need to, so we developed it. However, it hasn't been approved yet because the qualification only got recently registered from what I understand. So we need to revisit that qualification, and perhaps in that course addendum, and in that conversation with AgriSeta, let's just discuss ways in which we can bring out an assessment possibility with those standards that we set in that course addendum. Can we do it in an online assessment? But to answer your question, the learner will still have to go to an assessment site where they can be supervised.
Yes, so, I agree. So, but we will be in contact with you via AgriSeta with regards to the finalization of the quasi addendum. And I think it's maybe worthwhile to investigate if we can register various sites across South Africa with invigilators that will then administrate the process, just to make sure that we can make sure that it's the learner that is completing the assessment and not somebody else. Good. Okay, so those seems to be all of the questions pertaining to quality assurance. Thank you very much for those. And then last but not least, I am going to ask David to talk to us about the accreditation criteria. David is the Deputy Director of Accreditation at the QCTO. David, we are all ears.
Lizelle, can I just quickly come in before David talk?
Sure.
Just to make you aware of, in the chat box, you will see the link where you can access that training material. Just want to make you aware of that for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, David, you can start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see me? I can't see myself. All right,
There
good
We can see you.
afternoon, colleagues.
You are muted. You are muted.
To the colleagues, the presentation is very one.
David, we are struggling to hear you. You're not muted, so I think there's another problem with your sound.
Oh, apologies, colleagues. Load shading. Apologies. I'm back now.
Thank you. We can
Can
hear
you hear
you.
me?
Yes.
Wonderful. I'm
We
going
can hear
to share about these 5 pointers, the types of accreditation offered by the QCTO, and also the accreditation process for the part and skills programs, and then importantly, the links for application of the different QCTO accreditation services, and also a little bit of the accreditation challenges. Then from there, it will be a question and answer session. So these are the types of accreditation, colleagues. Okay, I'm going to focus only on the first 3, okay? So we've got accreditation for the occupational qualifications, of which I think you are going to be involved in that one, and also the part qualification and the skills program. I'm not going to dwell much on the ones that I highlighted in red because are part of the historically registered qualification. So as you keep on posting the questions on the chat, with the backup, my colleagues, they are around, they'll be able now to keep on responding now to the questions when the colleagues are posting them on the chat for the interest of time. Now, here is the first step, colleagues. We are doing our accreditation online. The application is done online. So the SDP need to get into our website, and then from there, I must choose now the correct link that I'm going to explain now at a later stage. Then from there, after the application has been done, so please, colleagues, you're going to get a response that's going to say thank you. So when it says thank you, please don't be frustrated. We've got the information already at QCTO. Then what's going to happen is that I want colleagues to be aware of. Like for an example, today is the 9th of November, 2022. If you apply between the first and the last day of the month, you are only going to get the response the first week of the following month, because we only get the spreadsheet once in a month from the Chief Director's office. So colleagues, they must not be frustrated after applying maybe on the 9th, then they say, oh, we are not getting any response. You must know that I'm making you aware that please must know that you are going to get the response for the month, because we wait for all the application and then we sort them out at the end or the beginning of each and every month. After we have received your application, we are going to send the SDP the link to upload all the legal documents. So it is important for the SDPs to make sure that they make use of the correct email addresses. Before they click submit, they need to make sure that the email address in that form it is correct, because from our experience, we will send the link. The link, it goes now to the wrong email address. Then from there now, we end up now being in trouble as if now we are not, assisting the SDPs. So it's really very critical for the SDP to make sure that they make use of the correct email address in that particular link. In that particular link, we are going to be clear to you what are the what documents need to be uploaded. So the documents that need to be uploaded, point number one, which is very important, the OHS audit report is very important because now here we are talking about the safety of the staff, we are talking about the safety of the learners. So it's really very important for the SDP to comply in as far as the OHS it is concerned. We also need to see the proof of ownership or the lease agreement. If maybe you have leased a place, there need to be a lease agreement in place. And then if you are owning a property, the rate and taxes, it will suffice because you'll be able now to see that it is your property. Point number three, Mr. Hanef emphasized the importance of the facilitator. We need to get somebody that is qualified to can be able now to facilitate that particular qualification. The qualifications, they have to be in there. The ID copies need to be in there. That is actually part of the compliance. Point number four, proof of financial stability. If maybe it is the new SDP, so you don't have maybe audited financial statement, so you'll submit now the business plan because, I mean, you are starting, we cannot expect you to produce the audited financial statement. Point number five, tax compliance is very important. You need to be tax compliant. Point number six, CIPC registration. You have to be a registered institution. Point number seven, Memtani have touched a lot about the MOU is playing a major role in our qualification because you cannot implement if you don't have the workplace. And the MOU need to be in place. And not just a generic MOU. Please, colleagues, you need to make sure that you look into what is in the curriculum document, what aspects need to be covered at the workplace. And please put them in the MOU because now you're going to get into the agreement between you and the workplace. So you need to make sure that that particular workplace, it is covering all the aspects according to the curriculum document. If, for an example, one company can help, you've got 6, other company can help you with 3, you'll have the MOU with 3 as long as it's covered there, and the other maybe MOU with the other company, as long as at the end, all the aspects, according to the curriculum document, they are actually now addressed in there. And here the issue of the learner matrix, I'm really happy to see that the learning material is readily available. I think it's going to make quite a number of the SDP's life very easy. So, but we are going to request that the learning material developer to please fill up the learner matrix. We'll send it to you so that at least we know that when you do the visit or when the quality partner do the visit, at least now all the SDPs, they've got the same learning material. Also, they've got the learner matrix because there need to be some alignment in there. Now, after you have submitted, colleagues, all the documents, and please, SDP, don't submit only one, then from there, after 2 weeks, you submit the others. Please submit all of them. By the way, we've got only 90 days turnaround time to make sure that the SDPs, they have received their outcomes. So as soon as we receive all the legal documents, that's whereby we are going to start with the desktop evaluation. The desktop evaluation, it means we are going to check whether have you uploaded all the legal documents. Then from there now, when all is well, that's whereby now we're going to come to the step now of the site visit preparation. That's whereby we're going to invite the applicant for a site visit. And the nicest thing is that we are even sending the site visit pack. It's not going to be a surprise. You'll know exactly when you come there what are the things that you are going to look at. So the site visit pack is going to assist you to do what? To be well prepared, to prepare yourself, to prepare the evidence according to the self-evaluation. Then from there, we'll confirm the site visit. We'll send you a site visit sheet, so whereby you have to confirm that you are available, so that we must not waste money to go there. When we arrive, the SDP is nowhere to be found. Then from there, we appoint the subject matter expert to conduct the site visit, or the quality partner. Like in this case, when the application comes, Agriz is going to assist us now to assist the SDPs now with accreditation, because we don't want a backlog. We want everything to actually flow. The last point, the site visit, it can be physical or it can be virtual. So physical one mostly is if maybe is a course that is trade related, because now we cannot now do the visual there, because there's some machineries that we need to see, or there's an audit. But site visit, it can be done physically or visually. Then after the site visit, subject matter expert is going to submit now the site visit report back to us as QCTO. And then from there now, when the report arrives at QCTO from the subject matter expert or from our quality partner, which is Agbiz in this case, we are going to take all those recommendations to the internal accreditation committee for approval. Because QP or SME cannot say you are accredited. They are going to recommend. So the final say, it is with the internal accreditation committee for the approval. Then after that, that is whereby now we are going to issue out the outcome letter, whether it is accredited or declined. So sometimes it happens that SDP won't be happy with the outcome, and then from there you are more than welcome to do what? To send your appeal to this email address, accreditation@qcto.org.za. This presentation, colleagues, is going to be shared with you. Now here is the important slide, the links for application. Point number 1, letter of intent. This link is only used if the SDP is applying for the historically registered qualification. Only is the letter of intent. So number 2 is what's going to happen now. The SDPs that are going to apply for that full qualification, they must not make a mistake. They are going to make use of number 2. It's called Occupational Qualification Skills Development Provider, Occupational Qualification and Part Qualification. And this is the correct link to be used when you apply for the full qualification or part qualification. Because now we've got a better experience whereby now the SDPs, they make use of the wrong links. And if they make use of the wrong links, from our side as QCTO, we cannot be able now to pick up whether you have applied or not. So it's really very critical for the SDP to make use of the correct links. Point number 3 is for the skills programs, if maybe there are some skills programs that the SDP wants to apply for. So number 4, I'm going to jump it, is for the N4 to N6. I'm going to jump to number 5. You can be the SDP, and at the same time, you can also apply to be the assessment center. Remember, my colleagues, they've spoken about our learners, they cannot just write anywhere. They need to write at an approved assessment center. So it's possible if the SDP wants to be the SDP and again assessment center, they will apply using number 5 to be assessment center. That's whereby now our quality partner, they will go and verify and check whether the SDP qualify to be an assessment center. This is our last slide, colleagues. Challenges, they are always there. Point number 1, I've elaborated more about SDP that are making use of the wrong links. Point number 2, we've got the SDP that apply online. We send the link to the SDPs. The SDPs from there, they don't upload. Those are the non-responsive of the SDP applicants. Point number 3, we've got serious problems with SDP that are making use of the consultants. Let me make this example. SDP does not want to get involved in the accreditation process. He says, okay, I'll hire somebody, I'll give that person the money, the person to run, as long as I can just get the accreditation. But the problems when it comes now to the implementation, the SDP does not have any clue how to implement the qualifications and all that. So it's really very important that the SDP, you must understand the process from the beginning until to the end, so that you can be able now to implement correctly. So we'll never have a problem when the quality assurance go and do the curriculum implementation, because you'll be there, you'll be hands-on, you know exactly what is happening. Point number 4, when we go and do accreditation to the SDPs, especially SDPs that have got the legal qualification, they'll say, no, but no, at CETA, that's how they do it and all that. So we just want to be upfront to say that the QCTO processes are not the same as the CETA processes. So the SDP need to follow the QCTO processes. And then it's very important that the SDP, they familiarize themselves with the approved QCTO accreditation policies, which is available into our website and their processes. That's all from me, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was very informative. I see that the questions that were asked in the chat were answered. Thank you very much for that. Do you still have any other questions that you need to ask David? Vessel?
Yeah, so David, we just maybe clarity. So we have 12 members throughout South Africa. So we have some of those members with facilities and also training facilities in the Western Cape. There may be some of them in each province. And I just would like to know, is it a requirement that the assessment center that register as a facility where the examinations can be done, does that need to be the same as the training service provider, or does it not be? Can we, for instance, then register our own facilities at the 12 different companies as assessment centers, and then we make sure that that's available for the training service providers to come and assess, for instance, our colleagues at those training facilities that we have available?
Okay, Vessel, it was not clear, but you want to find out, you say you've got 12 centers, and do you want to find out whether it's possible for them to get applied to be the assessment centers, am I correct?
Yeah, so we have 12 companies, and they are right through the country in the different provinces. So for instance, theoretically, you can have 12 assessment centers, and your colleagues that get trained, they can have the assessment done at their own company who have facilities for assessment, and then but the training provider just go there. The alternative is that the training providers must register then as assessment centers. I just want to have clarity on that.
No, if
Can I come in, David?
okay, fine. Thank you, Ms. Member Kopi. Thanks so much.
Yes, correct. Those places will be accredited as SDPs, but you can have any assessment center apply for any assessment center in another place, as long as it's meeting the requirement. It will be accredited, even if it's not in your premises of the one for SDP. Thank you. I hope you are asking that, right?
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks.
Exactly, yeah. Because you'll find that your venue is too little, and then we have a bigger venue. As long as we have a MOU or a lease agreement or something, then you when you are applying, you indicate that your address for the assessment center is the another place, not the one for SDP. You can be accredited. Thank you. As an assessment center.
Okay, and then there is a question about should SDPs register at both the CETA and the QCTO for this qualification? I think, David, you can answer that, but I think it's only a once-off registration at the QCTO.
Yes, Papa, yes, QCTO, you remember we had a quality council, and then we have delegated some duties now to our quality partners. So it's not to say you are registering in both of them, but the process is started by you doing an online application to us as a quality council. And then from there, after doing the test of evaluation, that's whereby now we are going to start the delegation process, whereby now the CETA, they will go all out to go and do their accreditation. And then from there, they will forward back the recommendation back to us as a QC. So the accreditation letter, the outcome is not going to come from the CETA, it's going to come from the quality council.
Thank you, David. And then there's also a question from Emmy saying, thank you for the clear process and timelines. Please indicate the estimated timeline for the desktop evaluation after the SDP uploaded the documents.
What should happen is that now we've got 90 days turnaround time. That's according to our KPI. Now, what is happening there? That is this is really very critical for the SDP to upload the documents at the same time. We are going to start to count day one after they've uploaded. So that's where our D1 is starting. So if SDP on Monday they've submitted one document, yesterday the other one, today the other one, and all that, we start to count when the last document was uploaded. That's whereby now we start now with the desktop evaluation. So our 90 days turnaround time is start from the day that all the legal documents have been uploaded. So that's how it went. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think that concludes all the questions. Thank you very much, David. Then last but not least, we're just going to ask Johan van Rensburg from BKB Grain, he's the manager there, just to give us an overview of industry's perspective on this qualification, their need, and why it's relevant. Johan?
Thank you very much, Lizelle. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
We can hear you.
Please excuse the sweet sound of load shedding in the background. So, colleagues, it's quite difficult to add something to a bunch of people as Leonard has been speaking before me. So, from industry side, we have experienced some learners that have entered the workplace with qualifications, and those people did not have the skills, knowledge, and experience, although they had the qualifications to do the work. So it's difficult, it's very important to acknowledge knowledge, and we need people that can do the work in industry. So as recent as yesterday, there was a training session in Botawil, where the 70% of the attendees was over the age of 55. So industry is hungry for new people, new qualified, skilled people that can do the work to enter the workplace. So I think what's quite evident, especially for people who have been training people in the industry for quite some time, that the ASA is the biggest difference that is coming in now. And we as industry are excited about that, because now we have a standard that everybody can comply to. And when somebody enters that has this qualification, they do comply to a specific standard, and industry will employ these people, especially in rural areas where it's difficult to get people who are not used to staying in the platteland to come and do the work there. So we as industry are excited. We're already willing and able to go into agreements with trainers on specific MOUs. We are excited and we want to see learners being exited as soon as possible on these, especially on the ASA, so that the advantages of this is not only do we keep our food in South Africa safe, we are keeping people's work safe. The advantages not only to have a well-run site, but these come with additional spin-offs, like, for example, to have a reduced rate on your insurance because you have the right type of qualification or preparedness on that side. So I think given the audience now, this is not something that I need to elaborate a lot on. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, you are welcome to direct them at me, but that's it from my side at the moment. Thank you very much, Lizelle.
Thank you, Johan. I agree fully, and I really hope that we can see young talent coming into this industry again, and as you often say, to make grain sexy again to
That's
young
it.
people. Yes. So thank you very much. I think it's important to understand that we need these skills. We needed them yesterday. So the sense of urgency and the need is big. And I wish you all the best as skills development providers in going into industry and training these people, getting the right people in the right places. And then I also want just to thank all of you attending today. I especially want to thank our colleagues at the QCTO who work so hard, as well as Agriz. Bessel, thank you for creating this platform to empower skills development providers. The SDP should know that Agbiz Grain is really invested in assisting you in the successful implementation of this qualification. And so if you need any further information, you should just contact Annalyn at their offices. I'm sure that she would contact you on completion of this workshop to send you all of the information that was shared here today, also the information that the QCTO said they would send us, for instance, the template for the statement of results. And we will keep on communicating with you as we complete the QAS addendum, as we publish the exemplar on the Agriz website, and hopefully we can do it on the Agbiz Grain website as well. And if you need any other support in terms of implementation, you are more than welcome to just reach out and we will assist you. Then I'm just acknowledging Patricia and Annalyn.
Thank you, Liz. I just want to check something. Am I correct to say we don't have learners yet? All SDPs are still not in the stage where they have learners. Because if there are SDPs that has learners, at this point in time, I should know them and they should complete the learner enrollment form and we start with the implementation. Thank you.
Okay, Annalyn.
Patricia, I just want to ask if you can please, I haven't received your presentation for today. If you can just send it to me afterwards, please.
I have sent this morning, but I will send it again. Thank you.
Johan.
Thank you, Lizelle. I just want to answer Patricia's question. So industry has started training people with the help of the curriculum that was developed, and the STPs that have been running this for us, as far as my knowledge goes, is registered, and they have been issuing statements of results.
Bessel?
Yeah, Lizelle, Johan actually answered my question. I'm very curious to know if there's anybody else, but I guess that's a secret. So all the best, and thank you so much for everybody that participated, and especially to the QCTO presenters today. We really appreciate it. You shared a lot of information. I learned a lot. And also to Agriz, Chris, if you can give your appreciation, our appreciation through to them as well. And we look forward to see by the end of next year or the year thereafter how many students we're going to get through this course. Thank you so much.
For a follow-up question, if everybody has asked, can I go
Yes,
on?
sure. Yes, yes.
So
Please.
then, can you kindly send me the list of all the SDPs that have started offering their email addresses and contact persons so that I can start with the process of learner enrollments and we visit them? Thank you.
We will make sure that you receive that information, Patricia. I think if all the SDPs who are currently training on this curriculum can either then just directly contact Patricia to send her all your learner enrollments, or via Agbiz Grain Annelien. Annelien, I will assist you if you get stuck in that regard. We will make sure that that information reaches you. Johan? Annelien?
Sorry, Patricia, it wasn't your presentation. David, it's yours that I haven't received this morning. Just to clarify that, please.
Sure.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I was about to resend now. Okay,
Sorry for that,
thank you.
Patricia. I'm really sorry. My
Okay.
apologies.
Did Johan make a comment? Because Johan talked, but we couldn't hear him.
No, Wessel, I just lowered my hand. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, it seems to be the end of the workshop. Thank you very much for your attendance, for your questions that you've asked. It was really good questions. I hope you feel empowered, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next year. Thank you, QCTO. Thank you, Agbiz Grain. Thank you, Johan. And thank you, Agriz. And I hope you have a peaceful evening and enjoy the festive season.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fabian, you have your hand up?